Thanks. Do come up, please. Yes, we're going to be informal about this. I'm not going to sort of slowly invite them up. I'm just going to ask them both to come up. Not everybody has come back from lunch, but people are filtering in. But I need to start because we want to try and keep ourselves on time if we can. So we're going to talk again about, in a bit more detail, about Section 377, the Indian Supreme Court ruling that overturned Section 377, which criminalised homosexual acts, among other things. To do so, I'm delighted to welcome next to me Daniel Mendonca, who is the project in charge for Bright Future, and Suresh Ramdas, Pride Business Impact Network Chair for HP India. So I want to begin. I mean, I hope the wind wasn't taken out of our sails earlier by the earlier session, but I do want to start first, without talking about 377, just to talk a little bit, Daniel, about your experiences coming through the airport, both in India and in Hong Kong, because I think it comes back to my earlier point. What the hell are we doing in Hong Kong around this question? We are putting our heads in the sand around it. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
First of all, a very good afternoon to one and all. I know it's difficult after lunch to sit here and listen to us, but please bear us. Do not doze off. So, from Bombay to Delhi, I had a flight from Bombay to Delhi and Delhi to Hong Kong. They allowed me to fly from Bombay to Delhi, but from Delhi to Hong Kong, they stopped me because my visa and my passport were not matching, because on my passport, through Indian government, I have a status that I can choose of others. So which is not valid in Hong Kong because there is no others into terms of definitions. So because of that, they canceled my flight. They said you cannot fly from Spice Edget. I called up my travel agency. They booked up me another flight and they gave me Cathay Pacific, but I was supposed, and they made me to choose male on my gender so that I can fly to Hong Kong. So when I came to Hong Kong, luckily, right around 10 o'clock yesterday in the morning, I was then stopped at the immigrations because there was a lot of questions that happened with my passport. There was a lot of questions that why are you here for? What are you here for? We cannot allow you to enter Hong Kong. And then with that talking, and because of my feminine side, they were like, are you here to manipulate people? My temper level rose, and I said, yes, I'm here to manipulate people like you. And that was the time when I had to put down my respect, and I said, listen, now you have to listen to me. And then, there was a big argument that I had with the immigration counter. I said, this is how you respect people of LGBTIQ. I have not been found doing anything in sex. I didn't do anything bad. I didn't talk anything. I have just entered Hong Kong with pride. And you cannot question me on my sexuality and my ability to enter Hong Kong. They started asking me questions, how many dollars do you carry? Why are you here for? Are you here so that you want to leave India and settle down in Hong Kong because you are not accepted and respected in your own country? And stuff like that. And I said, if my country would have not respected me, we would have still Section 377 on board.
Right. Exactly. There we go.
And I think it's time for Hong Kong now to change and accept people like us.
Yeah.
And finally, they couldn't handle my sarcasm, and they threw me out of the immigration and said, please go enjoy and come back safe.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for reminding us here that this is an issue that we sweep under the carpet too often. Right. And in fact, not just that, but somebody's actually asking you at the immigration about these issues. And I think that's, to me, somewhat shocking. And the idea that somehow they think that you're here to manipulate people is extraordinary. But I hope there's somebody in the media that's covering this at the back. Do please come and interview Daniel afterwards. Let's move straight on to Section 377, and let's think about what the implications of this are. Suresh, can I ask you, just tell us a little bit, first of all, about the scope of 377 and how it came to be challenged.
So first and foremost, I think when we were talking about, just wanted to throw an overview of what Section 377 is all about. It's about the act, right? So anything which is non-procreative, In other terms, anything which is pleasure act is considered unnatural. So it's not only affecting the LGBTQ community, it's also the straight community. So only you can make out with your better half only when you want to procreate, when you think of getting children into picture. So for fun, you can't do anything. So, so with that aspect also, the law did not really go ahead and condemn you for being gay. So I can, before Section 377, I came out and, the cops wouldn't put me behind bars. I can go right in the middle of the road and scream, I'm gay, I'm homosexual. The cops are not going to do anything apart from the fact that, yeah, they may put me behind bars for creating nuisance, but not for being gay, right? So that is something a lot of the people didn't really understand about Section 377. And also there was one clause, they didn't stop anybody or any organization to kickstart ERGs or make their place more inclusive. So a lot of fine prints, nobody reads the fine prints of any law or anything, right? So this was one of that. So we had to really call that out and let people know that it's okay to be inclusive in your organizations. But I think coming back to the point on Section 377 and its implications, first and foremost, it's a big, big thing for us to really get rid of the colonial law. As I was telling Charles that, I'm sorry to going to be putting quite a few people from London or Britishers on spot that, they really messed us up for quite a long time. And they went back to their country, fixed everything, but let the Commonwealth or the Commonwealth nations that they were looking at didn't fix that there, right? So we, again, had a lot of issues, a lot of concerns, but 377 getting away is really good news for us because organizations are now stepping up and coming out in the open to be supportive, be inclusive. And that's helping us as well as community people to really be out there and take that first step to being themselves or coming out. So that is one of the big, big implications is that now we are able to be ourselves and we don't need to go through a little bit of harassment, though it is there, discrimination is still there, harassment still continues where people really don't know what 377 is all about. Like how organizations didn't know, people also really don't know. But to, call that out as part of when they removed Section 377, there were quite a few points that even the reading down of that came through, wherein the Chief Justice and the other people in the panel mentioned clearly, told government that they need to start doing more sensitization awareness sessions. As the Supreme Court of India, they read that down. And I think it's been one of the best judgments in the world. A lot of LGBT activists around the world, where it's still not legal, are reading up the, what the Chief Justice and the panel said. It's really huge. So there are a lot of those conversations around
Well,
that.
can I perhaps ask Daniel to pick up there? Because, I mean, the judgment wasn't just about decriminalizing homosexuality. It went further than that. And what do you see as being the sort of really progressive elements of that judgment? In fact, there was an apology as well, wasn't there, in the process?
As I identify myself, I'm an intersex, not a trans. So I was born intersex, and that's how I grew up. And in a country like India, if you are intersex or you have a feminine side, you will be called as trans. And because of your feminine side, you'll never get jobs. There's always that discrimination for trans people or feminine people to get into jobs, or the only jobs you can go into is something to do with beauty, massage, and creativity. I don't know why, but yes. And when I was growing up as a kid, and when I was identifying myself and I knew I was different, I dropped out of school because of my feminine nature, and a lot of things happened in life. But my meeting with Section 377 for the first time was I had to take up prostitution and begging, because that's the only work available for people of feminine side. And I had to join the Hijra community, which is one of the dominating communities of trans communities in India. And I took up begging and prostitution as my work because that's how I had to run my family. I had a mother who was diagnosed with cancer. I had to take care of her. And during that time, this was one of my bitter experience of Section 377 was I was raped by 11 men at a station. And I was critically ill, put back to a hospital. And when the police inquiry was done, the police came up and looking at me laughed and said, you know what, we can put a case against you because don't you know that Section 377 is there in the Indian Penal Code? And I was like, what the hell is Section 377? Someone rapes me and I am being supposed to be blamed for it. And that's the time how my activism on Section 377 started because that's how going to different medias, to UN, and talking about Section 377 took place because Section 377 was not just saying that, okay, it denies pleasure, it takes away no gay can have sex, but it also applied to the heterosexual because it said that you cannot have sex which is considered to be anal and oral, which was also to the heterosexual community, but it was always used for us so many years, 150 years down to come.
Right.
And because of that law, police, other people took advantage of the community because they would rape them, have sex with them, take money from them, and they say if you open your mouth and go and complain, Section 377 will be there for you. So there were two balances. If you have a consensual sex in India with same sex, you would have a lifetime imprisonment. But if a man raped a woman, he would only have 10 years of imprisonment. That was the hypocrisy of the law. But I'm thankful to so many people, along with everyone sitting here, that people supported. And finally, Section 377 was out of the Indian Penal Code. It was not just history. But it gave hopes for new India so that new rape law policies could be more inclusive and LGBTIQ people could be included in those rape case policies.
So I think that is an important point. Is that obviously just removing Section 377 does not in and of itself make all the difference, but it's important. So let's try and sort of ask the question, to what extent has 377 changed the landscape in India around LGBT and how has it changed it? Suresh?
I think I'll speak from a corporate perspective. A lot of them were hiding behind Section 377 to initiate any, work for the LGBTQ community. There were organizations like IBM, Goddard, who took that stand forward. Even HP also, took that stand forward and said, let's be inclusive. But majority of them were all the time hiding behind Section 377 because they didn't read the fine prints. They really didn't understand. So I used to go to other organizations and tell them to get started with LGBTQ ERGs, and they always said, it's the law which is stopping us. I said, your employees are not coming to office to have fun, right? So why don't you go ahead and look at, making your organizations more inclusive, be supportive, and help them out. Productivity, so I had to go ahead and show them a business case of how, stopping or not allowing a person to be themselves is hitting your productivity. And when we are talking about globalization, that means you're trying to be inclusive of everybody. So why you're signaling, just taking out people from the community? So these conversations got them thinking because a lot of them had an aha moment as well. Like, oh, we didn't really know that we could do something like this. So thank you for letting us know. So there were two things. One, they were hiding behind the law. The second, they were really not aware. So, this, now that the 377 is gone, as what even Keshav mentioned, everybody's coming out in support, which is good. And a bad thing also, because of the fact is, are they just doing it for marketing strategy, just to be out there and say, hey, we are also supportive, but they're not being inclusive in their organization. So I think a lot of the people from the community are, taking that step forward to start questioning these organizations, each and every organization, after the 377 got removed, and they're showing the pride flags, we're questioning them, are you really being inclusive? Show me your policies. Do you have policies first and foremost? Right? There are a lot of multinational companies who are based out or they are headquartered in US and Europe, but they have their offices in India. Now, are you really walking the talk?
So Daniel, can I just ask you that question? Are companies in India walking the talk? And specifically Indian companies, because we talked about Goddard and the others.
So recently, in this 2 months, I have gone to the advisory council board with community business, which is making Asia, specifically India's companies, more inclusive for LGBTIQ plus people. So every time when I deal with corporates, I'm like, we are ready to have LGBTIQ people. And then I'm like, you are ready, yes, but is your staff ready? It's not that you are ready, it's done. Your staff needs to be ready so that acceptance is there at the ground. And not just acceptance, but also is your infrastructure ready?
True.
If you have someone as trans or you have someone as intersex or gender non-conforming, they would not like to go to a male's or a female toilet, then what will you do? If you have a person of the LGBTI community who does not want to wear uniform to pertaining to either one gender, male or female, what will you do? So we are working inclusively, not just saying that we are ready, but we are ready in terms of an inclusive policy. We are ready in terms of infrastructure, and moreover, we are ready in terms of acceptance with the co-workers. Because I always tell people, if you don't accept people of LGBTIQ, it's fine. It's fine. But that does not give you the right to discriminate someone on basis just what you believe is right.
True.
Just because you believe something is wrong doesn't mean that the whole world needs to believe it's wrong. So that small steps need to be taken right from HR policy towards the ground root policy, and from there even with watchmen's.
Yeah.
Because every time I take a session, I'm like, we have our whole staff here. I've said, where is your another staff? Where is the watchman? Where is the people who do the cleaning of the office every day? Even they need to be aware about all these sessions.
So Suresh, I wonder if you could just pick up on that, because it seems to me that this question of acceptance is enormously difficult to address. How do companies address them? And I mean, you're obviously working with a foreign company, so at some level that, that process is already imposed on you from outside. But how, from within India, are you addressing that? A question of acceptance within the company, and how do you think Indian companies are doing it?
Well, first and foremost, they always keep harping on this point that it's against our culture. It's, it's something that has not been there. And I always have to go back, and tell them, guys and people, prior to Britishers coming into India, we were very diverse and inclusive, right? So in any and every form. So same-sex partners was very much there, and we had the trans community who played an important role, and even for the straight community, they were like, you can have multiple partners. All that was absolutely there. I mean, I always tell them, go back to Khajuraho, the temple where you have all the sex scriptures, the position. We had the land of Kama Sutra, for crying out loud.
No, we taught the world how to have sex. Let me be clear on that.
So where are you, where's the topic of, it's against our culture being brought in? So, and that shakes a lot of people up. It's like, oh my God, what were we really thinking, or what was our belief system? That's kind of really shaking it up, right? So I always have to go back to that conversation and tell them, we were inclusive, it's just that somebody else from outside came and messed it up for us. And even now, people say that, oh, it's a very Western culture. I'm like, why is that? Because media also has a role in that, because media portrays, the Western, culture more, saying that it's available or they have same-sex partners, while we also have. End of day, it's human beings, so, it's not just there only in the West. We have here as well, but they don't want to portray that because they don't want to shake certain people up or certain beliefs up. So I think that was, as part of corporations also, now they're taking that step forward and doing the right things.
So Daniel, is it this reconnection, and I mentioned it right at the very beginning, this reconnection with Indian identity and Indian sort of traditions that actually is important in a way of kind of explaining how to build acceptance?
So I would look at the church perspective also, because I've worked with National Council of Churches India to make churches inclusive for LGBTIQ. I know I put the hands in the lion's mouth, but I had to do. Because that discrimination, that on basis of religion, I think religion plays a very important role. More than acceptance, an individual is ready to accept, but every time when an individual accepts, he says, my religion does not allow me to accept this view. And there where all the debate starts. So I always ask Christian people, when the Bible so much talks about love, when it talks so much about love your neighbor thyself, and it talks so much, where does that love vanish when it comes to the LGBTIQ people? Does the law changes? Even in Hindutva, we as Indians, we have been, as he said, we have been very inclusive. We have been very inclusive, but because of certain preachers, the way they turn and twist the words that come out from so-called God's mouth to human beings have been twisted and turned in their own ways. Otherwise, I don't think so you can practice religion without respecting a single individual on this earth. If you do not respect a single person on this earth, then I think we need to change our religion. We need to find a religion that gives us more equality, which teaches us more respect towards individual irrespective of their sexuality. We have a god in Hinduism which is called as Ardhanarishwar.
Right.
Which means half women, half man. And I always tell people, look, our God taught us to be inclusive. What are y'all fighting for?
And we started drag. Well, we had one of the gods go ahead and,
That might be disputed. but I mean, paradoxically, of course, the BJP, the right wing of the BJP, seems to be, I mean, on the surface at least, conservative and potentially morally conservative around these issues as well. How do you see now with the BJP coming back in with a large majority, well, not a large majority, but a majority, how do you see that playing out now for the LGBT community post 377 as well?
Well, I'm a person with a positive and very optimistic frame of mind. So I think with whatever has happened, I wouldn't want to, give credit to the current government when Section 377, got removed, but also saying the fact that the previous government, which was in power for 10 years, didn't do anything, or even if they tried, I don't know how much. But the fact that they gave the free hand to the Supreme Court to make the decision, saying that you all decide, right? So maybe a baby step. I'm not going to be very pro, but it's a baby step. Maybe they are also rethinking, because again, if you have to say BJP, Hindutva, yeah, it talks about acceptance in any and every form. Maybe people have really, as what Daniel said, that it's kind of gone the other way. They've really wanted to brush or remove things off which they really don't want to talk about. But a lot of them still date. If you have to talk about issues or issues concerning the trans community, they have not been that severe like how it happens in the West. Yes, the Hijra community is very, very strong. They really take charge, but they've also given the space to breathe. So I'm optimistic again that they will give us the way, because the agenda also by our Prime Minister was to remove all or abolish all the old laws, which is happening. The Supreme Court has been doing some tremendous work in that aspect. So with that positive and optimistic per se, I think it will do good.
You see it so positively done?
Positive, yes, but there's something that I would contradict with the statement of BJP was that in 2014 I was the first Indian intersex to represent United Nations. And after that, I was also the drafting committee of doing the intersex bill policy, which was the fact sheet of UN of understanding intersex people. And before Section 377, if you know, UN in 2016 had again come out with to see how many countries still support LGBTIQ rights.
Right.
And it was the first time in history that India stood with Pakistan, the current government, they became brothers, and they came together and said, we do not support LGBTIQ people of our country. Like suddenly two enemies country became friends, that we are on same boards on homophobic. take them out and send them to British England. We are okay with it.
What an image.
No.
What an image.
And in 2016, they stood against the UN law. And it was shocking because this was the time when the Supreme Court was revising
Yeah.
its bill. They were revising on the petition that was filed with so many people. And to see a government, we thought that we would never have a positive response because at UN level, the India government had said that it will not. But it was twisting. Like on October and before October, there were a lot of things happening, but one of the major role that happened was that there was a whole conference of National Council of Churches in India who said that we support LGBTIQ rights. We called the Muslim leaders and we told them, okay, what's the problem? They said that we have a problem with homophobia and we will not accept homosexual. I said, wait, what do you want to say? Are you trying to say that you condemn the act or the person? And they were like, we condemn the act. Then I said, why are you condemning the person then? And then the Muslim came out and said, we will not go against the Supreme Court judgment. And that was the time when two minorities, Christians and Muslims, came together and said, we are not going to question the LGBTIQ, whatever decision the Supreme Court gives. And finally, the government also looking that, the two major religions also have kept their mouth shut. It's better we don't speak anything, otherwise it's going to be trouble winning the next elections, which they won. And then finally, the judgment was out. But one statement the judge of the Supreme Court said was heart-touching, and it brought tears in my mother's eyes and mine. She said that whole India needs to seek apology to the LGBTIQ community and their families for discriminating them on basis of sexuality for so many years down to come. We have failed to upload the Indian Constitution and give democracy and secularism to the LGBTIQ community. And that's what I felt proud. What power does the Constitution have, even if you do not believe that homosexuality is correct, but if your Constitution upholds you as human beings, nobody can challenge the discrimination that's faced by the people.
I am going to ignore the timer down here and just ask if there's one or two questions, because I think this is a fascinating discussion. Any questions from the floor? Quickly, please. Good Lord, we are just after lunch.
Are we so good at it?
It is just after lunch. Well, just a final thought then, apart from bilateral.
Oh, there's one question there.
Okay, just one question down there, please, quickly if you can.
Hi, Suresh with AXA Hong Kong. Brilliant stories for the both of you, especially being discriminated is tough enough, and living through it is even harder. So from our side, I think it's great that we are hosting the party next month. Come and see me later for e-tickets. We are also rolling out our first transgender policy next month as a company. So I think thank you. I mean, it was tough writing it, and I understand the toilet situation and it's common issues. But I think we took a stand that's come up with a proper policy. I think for Daniel and Suresh, so what's next? So 377 done. So now you're going through the happy days. Mm-hmm. So what's next from your views?
Briefly, if we can.
Yeah. I think again from a corporate perspective, it's more sensitization, awareness, and I always tell people that don't get too excited that you want to hire and you start hiring LGBTQ people. Mm-hmm. First, create that awareness among your organization, as what Daniel said, right from the touch point. Every touch point in your organization should be sensitized and being aware. Then create facilities. Restrooms is a big thing. So again, I was telling Charles this, and I guess you all are getting to hear this first news, that in HP India, by next month, we would have gender-neutral restrooms across India. So that is something you need to create that infrastructure, which I'm very, very proud of and excited. As part of the Pride Month, we're doing this, and it came through. So have all of that ready, and then reach out to the community. We have many people. They will definitely come and join. And we already have people like Keshav, his organization, and IBM, all of them who've done brilliant work. It's just reaching out, doing the right things there.
For me, next is that in India, anything that is unwritten is unsaid. So I want to look working with governments, especially bringing down policies and making it mandatory. Because one of the things that I've always debated on is saying that by not employing LGBTIQ people, you are losing on your GDP.
Right.
And that discrimination needs to be stopped. So there should be an inclusive policy that should be drafted by the government and seen, that the evaluation team sees that, there should be reservation for jobs, especially at government places. We need reservations in the parliament so that we can speak. And every company needs to train their staff to be more inclusive and sensitive. But on a written policy, even on posh acts, like for India, we have protection of sexual harassment at workplace. We have seen that it be, at least at my office, it's very inclusive. Sexual harassment, it also includes men.
Right.
Not to deny that men also go to harassments if they're handsome. So, just a joke, but yeah, to say that we need an inclusive policy on board, and it should be written. It should be written and put down on papers.
Section 377 is just a start,
Yes.
and there's lots more to do. But thank you so much, Daniel.
Thank
and,
you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
So let me invite to the stage Michael Gold, who's going to talk a little bit about the EIU survey. Now,